This is episode 418 of The Amy Ahlers Show. 7 signs that imposter syndrome is holding you back. I'm your host, Amy Ahlers, women's leadership coach, keynote speaker, and best-selling author with over 21 years experience, folks. Yes, it's true. I know you must be thinking, Amy, did you start when you were 5 years old? Ha ha ha. So what a wild beginning of the year. I'm going to get to the 7 signs that imposter syndrome is holding you back in a moment. But first, this is my first show of the new year, and I want to just take a moment to breathe with you. I'm going to actually invite you to take a breath with me. Let's breathe in and breathe out. My goodness gracious. What a doozy of a way to start the new year with the unbelievable riots that happened in Washington, D.C. I'm not going to go on and on about the riots here on this show, but I want you to know that I did film a 6-minute or so video about the riots in DC and about the themes of belonging and mattering and how those played into what happened in DC on my website, which you can check out at wakeupcallcoach.com. And while you're there, it will be right there on the homepage. You can click the video right there. And I would love for you, if you are not already, to go ahead and sign up for my email list so that I can email you immediately when things like that happen. I also wanted to let you know that this is the second to last Amy Ahlers show. Yes, it's true. I am going to be starting a brand new podcast in the next 30 days or so, and I will reveal the name to you on the next show. But I'm really excited about it. So we are going to say goodbye to the Amy Ahlers Show and hello to this new show. So you can stay tuned, and I'll share more about that next time. So let's go ahead and dive into the 7 signs that imposter syndrome is holding you back. Now, as a women's leadership coach and doing this work for over 21 years, I have seen time and time again that imposter syndrome is one of the biggest things that gets in the way of brilliant, powerful women rising to the leadership and success they desire and quite frankly deserve. What about you? Are you letting imposter syndrome get in your way and hold you back? I want to let you know that I created a free quiz so that you could really check out how imposter syndrome is or isn't, as the case may be, getting in your way. You can check that out at imposterquiz.com. Imposterquiz.com. It literally, the average completion time is 1.5 minutes. So it's super short and quick, but will really shed some light and give you some immediate tools you can use. Because you know the feeling of that imposter syndrome, right? Like you walk into a meeting, or in this day and age, probably Zoom into a meeting or get on your Google Meet or what have you, and you feel that lump in your throat. You've prepared for this meeting, right? All right, fine. You've over-prepared for the meeting and you're ready to make your contribution, and the time comes for you to speak up and you hesitate. Maybe you even totally freeze up. And you hear that crazy voice in your head saying, who do you think you are? If you speak up, they're going to find out you're a fraud. You try to shake it off. You might even say a few words, but your true power and confidence are nowhere to be found. And then you leave the meeting or log off the meeting and you feel completely defeated and immediately start beating yourself up. How on earth did you let this happen again? Or maybe you're a woman that does great in meetings. Maybe you really shine in meetings, but perhaps you are incredibly hard on yourself when you do succeed. You are sure that any compliment or any acknowledgement of your work is merely someone trying to be nice or be polite. They're not sharing truth. Or that the fact that you just became the top sales manager is simply due to dumb luck, even though maybe it's your 12th time. Do you get where I'm going here? This is imposter syndrome. And imposter syndrome hijacks your confidence, your contribution, and your celebrations. You are so not alone. Imposter syndrome is all too common. There's a really interesting study from 2019 called "An Overcoming Imposter Feeling: How Senior Executives Manage Their Insecurities." And what this study found was that female leaders in particular experience imposter syndrome to a higher degree than men. More than half, 54% to be exact in this study, of women scored frequent or high feelings of that imposter syndrome versus only 24% of men that reported feeling that imposter syndrome. Now, unconscious bias around gender and leadership is a likely contributing factor, the researchers stated. In my own experience, in the past almost 21 years of coaching many emerging and rising and established women leaders, I've found imposter syndrome to be extraordinarily common and paralyzing when left unchecked. So sometimes imposter syndrome can be a bit elusive, so I want to share with you 7 signs that it's afoot. Okay? Here we go. Sign number 1, you never feel enough. When you feel like a fraud or imposter, you constantly feel like you just can't measure up. You feel small, inadequate, and swim in a sea of self-doubt. That's number 1. Number 2, you expect perfection. Perfectionism. Yep. Unrealistic expectations run amok when you suffer from imposter syndrome. You beat yourself up for the tiniest imperfections, and that can make you procrastinate or hold back altogether. Perfectionism is brutal and is a surefire way to lead you to feeling inadequate. Because isn't perfection unattainable by definition? Okay, sign number 3 that imposter syndrome is holding you back. You compare and despair. Do you constantly compare your worst to everybody else's best? It's a setup for feeling like a fraud and imposter. I like to tell my clients to stop comparing the truth of your life to someone else's curated social media account. It's far from apples to apples, and you never know the truth of someone else's life. Hence, the perfect holiday card in the mail boasting of effortless perfection, followed by the announcement of a divorce 2 weeks later. Have you seen that happen? Okay, sign number 4, that imposter syndrome is holding you back. You constantly feel like you need to prove yourself. The underlying belief is that you haven't earned your place, no matter how many dues you've paid in full. You feel like you'll be found out at any moment, so you keep dancing as fast as you can, proving your worth by over-preparing, excessively talking, or collecting evidence to boost your fragile ego. So are you feeling like you need to prove yourself? That's a sign that imposter syndrome is afoot, let me tell you. Okay, sign number 5, you self-sabotage. When the imposter narrative feels like truth, you will sabotage your success. It might show up as things like procrastination or resistance or running worst-case scenarios until you don't even bother trying. If you feel like you have a pattern of being self-destructive, chances are imposter syndrome is part of the problem. Sign number 6, you never feel like you actually belong. It's easy to walk into a room or meeting, even online, and feel like an imposter, especially if you're the only woman or woman of color in the room. Feeling like an outsider eats away at your confidence, joy, and self-esteem. And sign number 7, you attribute your success to luck. Whenever you have a win, cross the finish line, or have a triumph, you are quick to think of it as dumb luck versus actually owning it. You dole out credit to others in abundance, but giving yourself credit is rare. So do any of these 7 signs ring true? I'm going to read them off real quick here. Number 1, you never feel enough. Number 2, you expect perfection. Number 3, you compare and despair. Number 4, you constantly feel like you need to prove yourself. Number 5, you self-sabotage. Number 6, you never feel like you actually belong. And number 7, you attribute your success to luck. So the truth is that imposter syndrome honestly is part of the human experience. Men and women alike feel it. As that 2019 study shows, women can feel it more often than men. And what I've really discovered is even if men and women feel it the same, it's often women that let it stop them. And that's why I want to share with you these resources. Because if you're ready to overcome imposter syndrome and own your worth and accomplishments, I have two things. I already shared the first one. Begin by taking the free Imposter Syndrome quiz, and that's at imposterquiz.com, imposterquiz.com. And you can go ahead and take it. It takes less than 2 minutes to take. And it's just to provide some interesting insights into how imposter syndrome is specifically showing up in your life and gives you some tools. And the second thing is to attend my upcoming free training. It's the first brand new training of the new year called Overcoming Imposter Syndrome, 3 Keys to Break Free of Feeling Not Enough. And you can check that out at amyaylershow.com/imposter. Here's what I want you to know. May you always be in tune with the truth of how worthy, brilliant, and valuable you are. With that, I am reminding you to embrace the messiness and the magic of life and the messiness and the magic of the world. I am so excited to have one final Amy Ahlers show with you and then to be jumping over to my new show that I can't wait to share with you. As always, rating and reviewing the Amy Ahlers Show is so important. Always appreciate that. You can go ahead and do that on wherever you are listening to the show and share it with your friends and loved ones. And with that, until next time, it's Amy Ahlers signing off.